Greetings, I'm Jeff, and today we're going to be talking about meiosis. Let's begin. I'm cutting all of it. Let's get into it. Meiosis. Now, what is it? It's a form of cell division. Now, meiosis occurs to produce sex cells. What does this mean? Well, you start off with the cell. It doubles its DNA and creates 4 smaller cells that have half as much DNA. Cells that have half as much DNA are called haploid cells. Now, the alternative is a cell that has all of its DNA, all of its chromosomes. This is called a diploid cell. Diploid? Diploid? I don't know. You just have to write it down, alright? And why does it have half as much DNA? Why is that a useful thing? Why does it want half the chromosomes? It's because during sexual reproduction, the 2 gametes, one from each parent, will need to fuse together to create a new offspring. And this offspring, the half from each thing, the DNA will join together and will create one whole amount of chromosomes. I say one whole because different animals have different numbers of chromosomes, so there's nothing definitive going on there. Meiosis creates genetic variation, and I'll talk about more on that later. Firstly though, let's cover how it works. Meiosis is a 2-stage process. Meiosis 1, Meiosis 2. You'll notice there's no interphase 2, and the reason for this is that there's no more DNA that needs to be formed in between, because obviously you want to end up with 4 cells having half as much. Meiosis 1, very similar to mitosis. You start with the interphase where the DNA doubles and all the organelles and stuff form and double up. You get the prophase where it all sort of middles and forms into chromosomes. The metaphase where the spindle fibers attach to the chromosomes and pull them apart at the edges. The anaphase where they get pulled apart at the edges. And the telophase where they actually form 2 different daughter cells. Different homologous daughter cells, that is. Homologous, of course, meaning they are the same. Meiosis 2. This is where things get freaky, for want of a better word, you know. Because you see, you have these 2 daughter cells. They do all of the mitosis stuff again, but there's no interphase, so the DNA isn't doubled, and you end up with cells that have half as much DNA. 4 of them. It's getting out of hand. Independent segregation. Now, this is the bit I was talking about previously. This is the genetic variation. And you see on the left-hand side here, the homologous DNA, the homologous chromosomes, the blue ones, which I've represented here, so it's easy to see, have all formed into the same daughter cells, because there has been no genetic recombination. So the chromosomes and the DNA within them hasn't crossed over or anything. They've just kept to their own, and it's created these daughter cells. However, on the right hand side, as you see here, after meiosis 2, the 4 cells have different DNA in them, different chromosomes in them, because of the crossing over of the DNA in the chromosomes as they divide. Because the spindle fibers won't necessarily all attach to the same chromosomes. They might attach to different ones in different parts, and this is what will pull them apart, and we'll end up with a sort of mishmash of DNA going on there. This will create genetic variation, because when these cells fuse together, it'll obviously create different DNA sort of strings and create different characteristics. So we'll have different DNA, which will of course mean different genes, which will of course mean different characteristics. Which is why you see, you know, as a family there, they got 3 kids, they all look different. It's not because they're, you know, it's just because this is why. Now, although I've done a terrible job here just sort of rambling on and not really saying all that much, if you listen really closely, you can infer some actual useful stuff here. So I'm going to leave you here with some questions. Now, I'm not going to patronise you by adding asking you for these questions, because I couldn't find it. But if you go back through the this little video, this short video of mine, you will find all the answers you need to find. Have fun.